So in this video I'll be discussing the process of sizing, which is cutting your paper to be the appropriate size for the woodblock. My suggestion for sizing is to lay out the paper as you see in this video on a surface that is large enough to support it, and to just trace the top of the woodblock with a pencil so that you know the sort of height of the woodblock by tracing out the line. And you're going to cut along this line later. But as you see in this video, I am just basically tracing along a continuous line that is at the height of the woodblock. When you do your sizing, you want the paper to be roughly the size of the woodblock. I'll discuss certain aspects of that in a second, but here, this is the most basic first step. So now I have a line that is so now I've traced out a line onto the paper that I want and intend to cut. I'm going to use a razor blade for this cut. However, if you have access to other, like a scissors or some other cutting device that is appropriate for you, you can feel free to use those. There are also facilities at the university and the Peck School of Arts where you can have the paper sized with a machine. You'll have to get permission from them. Contact their secretary of the School of Arts and find out what you need to do to have access to that. Here you see me just cutting very slowly along the width of the paper according to the line that I had drawn. You'll notice that I'm cutting on a surface, a cork board surface that will allow me to make my cut without damaging anything underneath. You should use whatever surfaces are available to you, or be aware that whatever you cut on will probably be damaged by the blade if you choose this method. Now, I prefer to go slow. Some people can go a little faster than this, but I like exactness in my cut, so I'm just taking it very slowly and just making certain that I follow the line as exactly as I possibly can. Good. Now I've cut one width of my paper. These papers are roughly sized such that you can get 3 widths by 3 heights, totaling 27 blocks. Here I have one width, which I can use to create one height, which I can create 3 widths with. So here I just sort of measure it out. And what you'll notice is that I'm leaving sort of a kind of edge, little space at the edge that allows me to have sort of additional room if I make any mistakes or if I want to do any adjustments to the sizing later. I really recommend just leaving that sort of edge And it's as simple as tracing a line. And once again, you'll notice I have just a little more space there, a little wiggle room, if you were. And just here, trace line as carefully as I can. Pull it out in the final one. Again, I give it a little bit more room on the width. And here, you'll see that no matter what, we're not going to be able to use the entire width of the paper. There will always be just a little bit left over. I really recommend saving those leftover sheets for practicing your brushwork and tracing, and they're just generally fun to have around. I make the cut according to the height-oriented line that I had drawn earlier. Again, being careful, slow and careful, but trying to get as close to the line as possible. Separate it out. If for some reason you have not fully, made a thorough cut, there's still some fibers that are attached between the sheets. Try not to rip it, because ripping it, tearing it, will probably damage the paper in ways that you are not anticipating. I just really recommend remaking the cut. That way you have more control, more accuracy. And here I do that. And it's just the same operation, piece after piece. Make the cut according to the line as closely and precisely as possible. It's good to hold down the paper with one hand. You can also secure it with tacks or heavy objects. I make the cut. Separate it. Final cut. Separate it. So now I have 3 sheets that are roughly the size of the woodblock, perhaps slightly wider since I gave myself a little wiggle room. Just go over these processes again. Draw your line. I prefer to go widthwise first. Make the cut. Draw additional lines to measure out the widths of the block. Make those cuts. And just repeat the process one more time. As I was saying, each sheet should yield about 9 sheets that are appropriately sized for your woodblock, with a little extra paper that will be the excess, the dimensions that don't exactly fit, that you can keep